CNN Movie Time. We're back for another great time. Nick, how you doing, bud?
Good, buddy. How about you?
I'm good, man. I had so much fun last week. Like, I've just been in a good mood all week.
And now we're like kind of mellowed out.
Yeah, the movie this week was much more on the dramatic side. We forgot the comedy bit a little bit. It's still funny.
It's still funny. Before we get into this week's movie, we have some notable things that have happened this week. First of all, we have to acknowledge that it is the 3-year anniversary of Kendrick Lamar's Pulitzer Prize winning album, Damn. Damn, is that album good?
It really is. If you've not listened to it and you're like, oh, I don't really know if I'm gonna like it. I don't usually listen to rap or whatever. Listen to it. It'll change your mind.
Damn.
But also pay attention to the lyrics. Don't just be like, oh, this beat is sick. Because that's what a lot of rap is these days. And no. We like rap with substance.
He's a poet.
All hail King Kendrick. So congratulations to Kendrick Lamar for making one fantastic album.
And Lemonade also came out 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So 2 iconic albums that dropped the same year within like a week or two of each other, I think.
And what was that, 2017? 2017 was killing it.
Yeah, dude. Album-wise, holy shit.
I feel like that was last year for movies. Like, there were so many great movies last year that just popped up out of nowhere.
And didn't get any recognition.
Exactly. So.
Well, on top of that, we'll talk briefly. Did you watch the Tiger King interviews?
No, I didn't. Did you watch it?
I did. Just because like it concluded everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting because like a lot of stuff came out about that like wasn't really shown in the show and whatnot. And they did interviews with. They didn't do an interview with Carole Baskin, which I'm assuming is probably because her publicist was like, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, she is not happy with them. I bet even if they invited her, she wouldn't have done it.
Oh, absolutely not, considering like a whole entire episode was based around the fact that like she killed her husband. Like, I'll put that in quotes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely like
Well, plus, if you watch the show, it's like clear that she thinks she's being the hero of this story. Like, she thinks she's like this god figure and like saving the tigers and all this stuff. And then that's clearly not what they were going for.
God. Yeah, it's a nice like way to like wrap up everything. They caught up with a lot of the people that actually worked in the zoo. They caught up with Saf. Was it John, his like ex-husband or whatever, that now is like has a fiance and a 4-year-old daughter and shit, and was wearing a shirt in his interviews, and
what a wild time.
Jesus. I'm glad that's over.
It was a thing. It happened. It made quarantine go a little bit faster. Let's move on.
Let's move on to What We Do in the Shadows, because season 2 came out.
Yeah, dude, I know that's like your favorite show.
Curtis, I don't know why you're not watching it yet.
I've seen a couple episodes. I just haven't found time to get into it, like really dig into it.
It's 20 minutes. And they're all solid. They're all solid episodes. Oh my god. If you've not seen like What We Do in the Shadows, like highly, highly, highly recommend that show.
So how's the new episode?
Oh, there was 2 episodes that premiered. So nice. like Wednesday, it comes out on Wednesday nights, and then on Hulu it premieres on Thursday. So like
they're spoiling you with 2 episodes this week.
Oh, I know, and they were both so good.
That's good, man. I'm excited. I'll have to watch the first season eventually.
Yes, 20-minute episodes, man. You could easily you and Katie can just binge watch this shit out of that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get Katie to watch that show.
She might like it.
That's definitely one I'll have to watch on my own.
Well, should we dive into this?
Let's do it. So this week we are talking about The Edge of 17, which is a movie from a few years back. It's like 4 or 5 years ago. And I saw it when it first came out, and I remembered really liking it. And I've been seeing it a lot on Twitter recently, so I was like, yeah, let's rewatch it. It kind of fits into the same like aesthetic that we've been going for. So this was your first time watching it, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So what were your initial thoughts? Like, what was your takeaway from this movie?
So like initially, like, you start the movie and it's very like humor driven, and then all of a sudden like it's just this huge switch of gears, and like obviously like big spoiler here. So within the first like 10 minutes of the movie, her dad dies, or like you find out that her dad dies. So like it definitely like creates some trauma and whatnot for not only herself but her family in general. So for me, like this movie was way more like emotionally driven than like the other two we watched.
Hmm.
So like the humor in it was like fucking key. Like I think my favorite quote from the movie is like from like towards the beginning of the movie, and like her and like her best friend that she found her talking, and her best friend goes, "One time my grandpa's pajama flap fell open and I accidentally saw his wiener and I got really sad."
Got really sad. There's so many great one-liners in this movie. Like you've got Woody Harrelson, who's famous for like his comedic timing and delivery, and Haley Steinfeld, who is like surprisingly really, really great in pretty much everything she does. She was Oscar nominated in like her first movie when she was really young for True Grit, the remake of True Grit.
Oh shit.
So yeah, she's awesome.
She was in Bumblebee. That was the first movie I saw her. It was
Oh
Bumblebee,
yeah,
and
nice.
she's a good little actor. I'm really impressed, and I think she did a very good job with what she was given with this movie. Like I think her, sh honestly, like of all the coming of age movies I've seen, I feel like the way that she portrayed a 17-year-old girl is very accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I love about this character is she's so flawed, and like her biggest flaw is that she has this kind of inferiority complex. Like she feels like everybody else is better than her, or feels like they're better than her, so she has to like overcorrect. And the way she plays that is so incredible.
And she can't take like criticism. Like she immediately hits back with
Hmm.
like every single flaw she can find in somebody in like a 10-second span.
Yeah, it's almost like an instinct, like a defense mechanism where she has to expose everybody else's flaws to hide from her own.
Oh yeah. So what, I wrote last night. I just went through because I watched it twice, but I just wrote this like list of like notes that I had on Nadine as a character, because the movie is heavily centered around her,
Hmm.
and like the other characters are more like support characters.
Yeah, it's definitely skewed in her perspective. Like towards the end, you get like some glimpses into the reality of like who these other people are, but like Nadine's such a selfish character. Like it's all like from her point of view.
Oh, for sure. So what were your thoughts on like Nadine as a character?
I think that's just the typical like 17-year-old girl. She's really trying to figure out who she is, and 17-year-old boy for that matter too. Just nobody really knows who they are, and she's obviously suffered a lot of trauma, so still trying to deal with that at such a young age is really, really hard. Coupled with the fact that her mom like clearly favors the brother over her, like to a weird degree.
I was like watching that, and I think, yeah, in my notes I put in there like, yeah, she is like self-centered and whatnot, but if you look at how the mom interacts with her, like especially that scene in the car when she picks her up from the party, she doesn't even like the mom doesn't even ask like what happened.
Hmm.
She just immediately goes into how the dentist screwed her over and was cheating on his wife with her, and didn't even like listen to her. So that really shows you right there like the dynamic between the mom and the daughter.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like again, it's a defense mechanism thing. Like she looks after herself because nobody else is really looking after her in that way.
And the mom is like weirdly like passive too.
Hmm.
about it. Because she straight up admits that, like, she goes to the son more often because he listens to her.
Hmm. Yeah, he's definitely looking out for the family as a whole, and she leans on that so she can be more selfish in her ways. I think that's possibly somewhat her coping with the loss of her husband. So I definitely respect the brother character a lot in this movie too, because he has a lot on his plate while he's also trying to mourn the death of his dad.
Oh, for sure. I think this is probably a good time for this question. Why do you think Nadine's relationship with her brother is the way it is? Like, do you think there's a root cause of that, or because it feels like it's one-sided?
Yeah, it's definitely one-sided. He like she definitely attacks him more than he attacks her, but he I think also just is kind of used to it at this point and like jabs back. I think she has a lot of resentment because obviously like the mom favors him and um the dad was like her like person in the family and he's gone now. But it's also just the high school like scene. Like he's definitely more in like the jock category if you're still putting people into like their little cliques. And she is like the unknown.
The unknown entity.
Yes. So she has a lot of like preconceived judgments about who he is just because of like the things he likes and stuff too.
I wore a shirt today that I thought would show off my nipples. That sounded random, but I promise it.
Giving the audience something to stay for. Come for the movies, stay for the nipples.
It screams body inferiority complex more than a girl.
That's hilarious.
Oh my god.
So I wanted to ask you about the relationship between the teacher, Mr. Burner, I think his name was, and Bruner, and
Brenner?
Nadine. Yeah.
I got you.
Thanks for
You
asking.
know, I thought that was an interesting relationship because, like, I guess from like a psychological perspective, it definitely seems like she's looking for that's her coping mechanism for dealing with her dad's death is like she finds a male teacher that kind of like could be considered like a father figure in a sense
Mm-hmm.
and like clings to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the like relationship there was really interesting because like it's he lets her bash on him and whatnot and realizes that she like clings to him for a reason like and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
really
think
like that. Go
I
ahead.
love it too. Yeah, I think he dishes it back just as much too. Like when she first goes into his office and she's like, "I just thought you should know I'm gonna kill myself," and he goes, "That's funny. I was just writing my suicide note too." Like that really shows like his like sarcasm and sense of humor, but also like how he relates to his students and like treats them like adults.
Which is the whole entire concept of like the age of 17 in general. Like a lot of people forget in like a lot of I feel like a lot of Hollywood movies also portray 17 as being more adult and more mature when in reality like as you can see with Nadine's character like there's still a lot of naiveness going on for sure
Oh.
like especially with we're just gonna dive into this especially with the whole entire concept of like sex
Mm-hmm.
and like that whole entire text message scene.
That was in the trailer, and like literally every single of the audience like died during that scene where she accidentally hit send.
You can
Just
feel.
it's so awkward. It's just like, uh, because
Oh
I think
my
we that's one
god.
of all of our biggest fears is like accidentally sending that message.
It's too real. It's and like honestly, like that could have ended up so much worse than it did in the movie.
It really could have. It ended up pretty bad in the end if you think about what happens, but still.
Oh my god. I mean, it could. Oh god. I mean, she ran away too. Like,
Mm.
which like what 17-year-old kid didn't threaten to run away at least 3 times a week?
Hmm.
I bet you even threatened to run away from Tina Curtis.
Maybe a time or two, yeah.
Just a time or two.
But yeah, no, I definitely feel like this movie represents like a more realistic high school. It's less over dramatic and like overdone characters and more of like the realism of like the situation for teenagers.
I mean, she's definitely over dramatic in like
Oh
to
yeah.
a certain degree, but like
But
I think,
yeah, teenagers are that way initially.
yeah,
Think about some of the like stuff people fought about in high school. Like it's all mundane, stupid shit.
like shit that doesn't even matter now.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you took my hoodie. Oh my god, my best friend's dating my brother now.
Yeah, that scene was interesting. I like that it all comes together in the end, though.
I feel like so I like rewatched it and I kind of noticed like just like with the whole like brother relationship aside, Krista's character is weirdly mature for a 17-year-old
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in her like mannerisms and whatnot, especially compared to Nadine.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the end, like you can tell she's trying to mend that relationship the entire time, but also like won't give up like what she has. And in the end, when Nadine kind of has come around and like leaves the house, she turns to the brother and goes, "That was good, right?" Like that's such an adult thing to say. Like that was good, right?
She said I miss her. I was like, "Aw."
I love their first meeting, like when they're little kids and they have the little caterpillar guy, and Nadine goes, "I'm going to be the best mommy to you ever. I'm going to protect you." 30 minutes later, I suffocated it.
And then an angel appeared. She she was dressed like an elderly man and smelled of sweet tarts. We haven't even touched on Erwin's character yet either.
Erwin is so like relatable to me in the fact that he is so socially awkward. It's painful.
The Ferris wheel scene.
All of it. All of it.
Oh my god. Cause you like get like rejected and shit, and you're like, fuck.
And you're trapped on this like tight space.
Oh my god. I mean, he wasn't just rejected like once, he was rejected like multiple times, but like he was there for her when she ended up coming back to him and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah, he's great. I like him a lot. The pool scene with the song.
You're a dickhead.
Also, the fact that when Nadine shows up to his house, she goes, "Wow, if I knew you were rich, I would have come." Or like, she says like something about like getting with him sooner.
Been nicer to you sooner
Yeah,
or some
yeah,
shit like that.
yeah. It's like wow.
I mean, I think Erwin like really helps her grow a lot as a character
Hmm.
because of everybody. She doesn't listen to him very much, but she ends up learning to listen to him.
Hmm.
Clay's back with Taco Bell.
Nice. Heck yeah.
Oh
Taco Bell
fuck!
for life.
He brought me Baja Blast because he's an angel.
Oh, Baja Blast.
If there ever was
The
one on
nectar
this
of
earth.
the gods.
The nectar of the gods. Watch it magically manifest into my hand.
Oh, I can taste it just by seeing it.
The most beautiful human being, ladies and gentlemen.
Clay, you the best.
Kurt says you're the best.
Thank you.
He said thank you. So now we're gonna drink this together. I wish there was 2 straws.
Just Lady and the Trampet, dude.
Yes.
Chief!
Look
Hi,
at that
Chief.
belly.
That belly, no.
Where were we?
We were wrapping up Irwin.
We were wrapping up Irwin. Yeah, he definitely made her grow a lot as a character because she ended up listening to him more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. I just love the ending with his like short film that ends up being like about her, and that beat where she's like, "Oh, I know it was about me" or whatever, and he goes, "No, that wasn't about you. No, I'm just fucking with you. It's fun to be on the like joking side of that though, like to be making fun of you for once."
I think she deserved that.
Also, his introduction to that video, like that's me anytime I have to give a presentation.
Same. That was too real. Thank you all so much for coming here today. Here's my film.
I hope you like it.
Oh my god. So, of the three movies, which do you think which do you relate to the most, and which do you think is the most believable?
So The Edge of 17, I think, is most believable, just because it's not as like a cartoon version of high school. I feel like the other two are like way over exaggerated, which high school's pretty exaggerated itself, but this one has a more like serious tone and less like cartoonish characters.
Yeah.
And I think I might relate to this one the most too, because I was never really the like partying type, so Booksmart doesn't really connect like that. I love the characters, but yeah, I was definitely more like the characters in this one.
Some of the shit that happens here, I'm like, oh my god, like that's definitely like I've either said or done something to that extent whenever I was younger, and I'm like,
Yep. But we didn't see what was wrong with it back then.
No, we thought that was completely normal, and I think that's the whole thing with like being that age or whatever. It's like you have no like bigger outlook other than like one moment pretty much, and you don't really have this like glimpse into like idea of consequence yet.
Right, yeah. And you don't have an idea of like the bigger scale of things either, like how what you do affects other people.
Empathy grows with time.
Exactly. So I feel like we would be sinning if we didn't talk about Nick during this podcast, because he's like the one guy that she's chasing after the whole movie, and sends the awkward text to, and she's like in love with this guy, and she learns a really valuable lesson and about like love and communication and consent. And I hope, but he probably didn't. Nick learned something about consent too.
That could have gone so much worse.
It really could have. I'm glad that she got out of that situation, but yeah.
What are your thoughts on that scene? That whole entire series of events that leads up to that.
I think it was a reality check for Nadine, because I don't think she really wanted to go that far with Nick. That was just like what she's told is what she's supposed to want, when she really wanted that more emotional like relationship. And Nick is just there to get some, basically, and she goes along with it because that's what society tells her she's supposed to do, and basically freaks out and takes back the consent, and he tries to push through it and keep going, and it's just really uncomfortable. And yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very like relatable scene for most like 17-year-olds, because like obviously like at 17 you're horny as fuck all the time. Crazy
Right.
ass hormones, horny as fuck, but you have like no idea what you're doing, especially like with like the lack of knowledge of like I don't want to say of sex, yeah, or like consent and shit like that, and like
Mm-hmm.
what like because schools don't teach you shit, and like it's so taboo and whatnot.
Right,
So
yeah. Yeah, it just creates this really toxic environment for like upper aged high schoolers.
right. Plus, like she has this like idea of like this like romanticized idea of this bad boy
Hmm.
that like and this over glorified idea of like what having your virginity taken is and shit like that.
Yeah,
It ain't like that. It ain't like
no.
in the movies.
Yeah. I think that's something everybody learns at some point is it's never going to be like how you imagine it, but you also can't compromise and give in to those things.
Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yep. Yep. So, it's a hard lesson to learn, but an important one.
This movie made me feel things.
Yeah, it's very emotionally deep. Like it takes me back to high school and I'm like, "Oh, I never want to think about that stuff again."
Oh my god, I know. I like watched it the first time and I felt so emotionally drained afterwards. I was like, honestly, I came here for a good time and I'm feeling kind of attacked right now.
Nice reference. So you watched it again.
So I watched it again and then like, oh my god, it was so funny because like I wanted to take like way better notes and like actually like make sure I grasped every concept and whatnot. So like I watched most of it and then I got up until the point where she like gets picked up by Mr. Brunner at the donut station, the
Mhm.
donut shop or whatever. And then like the brother comes to pick her up and they have that weird ass awkward fight like at Mr. Brunner's house and like I'm just like, bruh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. That scene says a lot about Nadine too, because that's the moment where we crack and we see the other sides of the characters. Like she doesn't know that Mr. Brunner has a family, and she's so shocked. She's like, "What's a baby doing here?" And he's like, "What the fuck? Where? How did this get in here?"
And like you see him like as like a whole different person like and
Hmm.
how his life is like actually happy and like he's very content like with his wife and his son and whatnot.
Hmm. And then the brother shows up and has like this crack about how he's always like looking after the family because the mother isn't doing shit. And yeah, it's just a very telling moment. And I think Nadine learned a lot about like seeing other perspectives from that night.
I think that like really changed her character a lot because like we I think the movie spends so much time on like how naive she is as a character and whatnot.
Hmm.
And then I like that though because it shows all of her flaws and like she doesn't like really learn anything until like the end.
Right.
And then it like okay, what do you like was the biggest like switch in character or like what moment do you think was the most impactful
Hmm.
for her character development?
To like as to who she becomes at the end.
Yeah.
Um, Probably that night where she ran away and all the stuff we were just talking about. Like forming her childhood is definitely the death of her father, but growing up and becoming an adult, it's that night for sure.
Oh, I think that she uses her dad's death as a crutch for like so long and she like doesn't Master Chief's playing in his basket down here. It's real cute.
Aww.
She uses it as a crutch for so long and she's like feel bad for me but she doesn't like look at like her brother and how this affects him or her mom and how that affected her too.
Yeah, she just blames them when they are upset or sad or
Right.
selfish. Like it's never her fault. Which the teacher even like calls her out at one point. And he goes, "Oh, sorry, I have a 1 year deadline for the dead and dying relatives. You got grandparents and other stuff. You got some more chances."
I think his character actually helps her grow the most though out of all of
Hmm.
them.
It's a reality check for sure. Like he doesn't take her shit; he pulls it right back at her.
And I think she like low key likes that because she's like it like makes her think. It's like
Hmm.
it's like a tough love type of situation where it's like, oh shit, like well if he notices that, do like other people notice that and whatnot?
Hmm. Yeah, everybody I think needs somebody that challenges them that way, like pushes them to like get better.
Well, I saw in the notes that you actually had a question, like did you ever have like a teacher as a
Mm,
friend or anything like that?
yeah.
Well, were you ever like close with a teacher or anything?
Yeah, so me and Fudgy, actually, our other friend, had this history teacher that we bonded with really well, and uh, he was an awesome dude. He helped us out a lot. Did you have anybody?
Hell yeah. Well, let's expand on that, Kurt. Like,
Well, he just like we were kind of the outcast. Like we were the band kids, so we kind of like stuck to ourselves when we had classes together. Like it was the two of us. And Fudgy is a really big Captain America fan, and this teacher is like in love with World War II. So like he always called us the captains and like saluted us and like treated us with like this like attention that nobody else really gave us, and it really engaged us in that class and helped us like have that like relationship with a teacher that we never really had.
hell yeah.
He also once broke up a fight by jumping over the crowd of people that was surrounding it. There was like a group of people watching this fight. He vaulted over them to pull somebody off of the other person.
That's incredible. Oh my god.
So,
I think back in high school, because like I'm still friends or like I'm still close with quite a few of our old professors from NKU
mhm.
that like really impacted my life, and like I'll message them or they'll message me on occasion and ask how I'm doing and shit.
Like
So
Wes.
that's dope. Yeah, I love Wes, man. He like uh that man is a legend, and Aaron Zlatkin as well. Like
Yeah.
Chris Strobel, like they're all just like great individuals and really care about their students and whatnot.
hmm Yeah. They are
So,
all great.
oh yeah, for sure. If it weren't for them, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today and wouldn't have the knowledge and everything. So,
Boy, are you glad that I made you come to my school?
I am so glad, dude. I am so glad I got out of psychology. But if I'm going back to high school, there was a teacher I had, and like I wasn't sure about her at first, and I had her my freshman year of college, and then we did a film analysis because she was an English teacher, and I had never like I hated English, like absolutely hated English, and then we got into film analysis, and I loved it. I loved it so much, and I took the rest of her classes. I ended up being a TA for her and everything like that, and she really like helped me a lot with my high school career for sure. I definitely had a lot of vent sessions with her and everything like that, and I used to bring her peanut butter fudge too. My grandpa's famous peanut butter fudge.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Oh yeah, and she was super dope.
That's awesome. Everybody needs that teacher.
Oh, for sure, man.
Heck yeah. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this movie? I know it was a lot. We were going for a more comedic side, and then I dropped this one on you because it was the one that was on Netflix.
I think like it it's really interesting like how comedic the last two were, especially compared to this one, and then like yeah, this one has some great comedic moments that like and like some of the like one-liners in the movie are great for sure,
hmm
but like it hits you on like a different frequency, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck.
Yeah, the other two movies are more of like the Hollywood style of like what high school is.
I highly, highly, highly recommend like watching this one for sure. Like
hmm
I would like to like relate to Booksmart a little bit more, but like it's so I think that's what makes it beautiful though, like the over the topness, like
hmm
same with Mean Girls, like it's so like over the top and like Bollywood-esque in a sense, like
Yeah. And there's a place for that for sure. Like those are
yeah,
still incredible movies. But this
yeah.
one I think has a lot to say to like high schoolers who are going through stuff like this.
Oh, for sure, man. I think like watching this movie, especially like being 26 now, I think it's you like go back and you like see some of the stuff that she says and like some of the reaction she has, and you're like, I used to act like that.
Yep.
And that's just a hard reality, and like it kind of like brings this humbleness to you like whenever you get to a certain age, and like I think people or like teenagers in that age group, probably like are relating pretty hard to it and like, oh my god, like, wow.
We all have that phase where we're like, oh, everything I think is right, and all the adults are stupid. And then you grow up and you're like, I wasn't that dumb as a kid, was I? Oh my god, I was that dumb as a kid.
My dad used to tell me the world doesn't revolve around you, and honestly, yep.
So true.
Well, Kurt, I think it's about time to wrap this puppy up.
That sounds good, my friend. I had a good time.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Sluglows, as always, for letting us use your music. And Curtis, thank you for being beautiful.
Thank you. Stay beautiful and have a great week. We'll get through this quarantine together, my friend.